Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, I wanted to give you a little update on the extracts so far that I made in this video right up here, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. And also, I'm going to do some other this and that and show you what's going on around here. So let's get started on the extracts. All right, well, it's only been about 3 weeks since I started the extracts, and I'm telling you, they are turning out amazing. They are so good. And just a reminder, the coffee, I'll show you the color of each one. Look how dark it is now. The chocolate, I'm very impressed with this. I really didn't think, especially in just a few weeks' time, when 2 months is the time I let them fully extract, how strong the flavor of this is. And the smell of these is wonderful too. The raspberry, also just a wonderfully strong flavor already in just a few weeks. So I'm very excited about this. The orange, wonderful orange flavor, and then the almond. The almonds is the only one where the flavor isn't really intense, at least not yet, but we're going to give it some time, but it still tastes amazing. Now, a couple of things I wanted to approach is I had some questions about, is there a way to make a non-alcoholic extract? Now first, the first thing you have to understand is most of the extracts you buy in the store are made with alcohol. That's the most common way to do it because it is going to be your strongest solvent that's going to give you the quickest amount of, the strongest and the quickest extracting time, if that makes any sense. And the other thing about the alcohol is it's going to give it an indefinite shelf life. It'll last forever. So that's the benefit of using alcohol. Now, in case anybody who's new to my channel is a little unclear on this, I do not drink and I really limit alcohol, but it still can have its places in our natural frugal lifestyle, even if you don't drink. I mean, I'm personally, for my own self, am against it because of biblical reasons, but as far as using for medicinal purposes and making extracts, there's really nothing to worry about because of the fact that when you cook with your extract, all the alcohol is going to get cooked out. And the other thing is, typically when you're using it in things where it may not get cooked out, you're using such a small amount of it that it's not going to make a difference or have any kind of influence on your mental capabilities. So again, I believe strongly in staying sound mind, sober-minded at all times, and even one little glass of wine can affect that. But the amount of extract, the amount of alcohol that's in it, especially the way I make it, in the amount of food or drink that's being consumed is not going to affect it. Part of the reason I go half and half, this way I'm cutting back on the amount of alcohol I have to use by half. So not only am I saving money, I'm getting less of the alcohol, but I'm also getting the nice natural sweetness of the glycerin in the extract, and it's totally natural. This was another concern some people had. Glycerin is a natural substance. It's not anything you need to be afraid of. What you need to be concerned of is seeing how it's sourced. Making sure you get non-GMO. That's why I specified that in the other video. And I will link again below to the glycerin that I use. It is specified non-GMO, and that's what I look for. Now, if you would prefer to leave the glycerin out, because some people also said glycerin was way more expensive than alcohol, where the 80 proof alcohol here is more expensive than the glycerin that I buy. So it may not be cost effective to cut it with the glycerin if you're worried about being more frugal with it. Now, to move on to a way to make your extracts without alcohol, yes, it can be done. And I had assumed it would be a water glycerin mixture, and so I did some research and looked it up, and sure enough, it is 3/4 glycerin to 1/4 water. So 3 parts glycerin to 1 part water. Because the glycerin on its own is just too thick and doesn't make a good extract. It just seems to not really pull the stuff out of your herbs and stuff if it's by itself. You need to dilute it some. And you have to remember that water in and of itself is also a solvent. You can make extracts with water. Basically, that's what you're doing when you make tea. So, or infusions. Now, my big concern when I first was thinking about the glycerin and water and what would then the shelf life be, because I know alcohol in your extracts is going to make it indefinite, but if it's watered down glycerin, is it going to change the shelf life? Yes, it will. However, I was pleasantly surprised to find out it will last for 4 months on your shelf. Now, I'm guessing if you were to refrigerate it, it would probably last even longer. But these are things you want to take into consideration when you're making your extracts. You know, do you want to use the glycerin? Is it too expensive? Do you need to avoid alcohol or not have it in your home at all? Then it is important that you go with the water glycerin. And what, you know, how much shelf life, how long of a shelf life do you want for your extracts? Me, because I'm not going to, especially since I made 5 at a time and I still have all my vanilla extracts that I've made, because I have a lot of those, then I want something that's going to have a pretty indefinite shelf life, and that's what this is going to have for me. And then, of course, again, consider your flavor. Now, some people were concerned about the spiced rum affecting the flavor. Now, I think all it does is enhance the flavor. I do not, in any of these, did I taste anything overwhelming of a spiced rum. It just tastes like whatever it is I'm extracting. And again, it seems like the spiced rum enhances the flavor more than plain vodka alone would do. But going with vodka is going to also be the cheaper way. So that may be the way you want to start if you're just getting started into making extracts. But anyway, so far I'm super, super happy with how my extracts are turning out, and I can hardly wait to use them. However, I am going to give them another 6 weeks to, or 5 or 6 weeks to fully finish their process, and then I'll do another update video on those. Now, another thing I have going on here is I want to make some more of my milk, my nut milk, and the nut cheese, because I'm just very, very pleased with it. And I figured I'd go ahead and do this right in front of you. These are vacuum sealed. And I'm going to go, I'm finding about using half cashews and half pecans makes both a really wonderful milk and a wonderful cheese. Because I'm not crazy about the taste of the cashew milk by itself, but with the pecans, it makes a super nice flavor. And then with the cheese, the cashews, the pecans give it a great flavor, but the cashews give it more of a nice creamy thick texture. And so it just, the two together, this is my favorite. So if you want to know how I made the vegan cheese, and no, I'm not vegan, but I do like, I'm just really liking this as a cheese replacement. Anyway, go check out my video on how I did that right up here. And with that one, I did just cashews, and you can follow that. I did try the almonds. I think I mentioned that in my last this and that video, and it didn't work so well. I still used it up, but the texture was just way too grainy trying to do it with just almonds. It was a nice flavor, but I'm definitely liking this much better. So all I got to do is pour some water in here in my jar. I've got a little better than a cup of nuts in here. And then I'm just going to put a lid on this and then let it soak for at least 8 hours. I probably won't get to this until tomorrow morning. And then again, if you want to know how to make your own nut milks, you can find, I'll go ahead and link to one of my nut milks or seed milks right up here. And you can find that. It's a super easy process, but you just got to start by soaking whatever it is, whether it be coconut, hemp seed, pumpkin seed, Brazil nuts, doesn't matter. You pick what you want, and then you get going on that. Now, some of them, I will throw this in, sometimes I will rinse, I will drain out the water and then rinse the nuts. It depends on what it is. I do that with the pecans because they make such a strong brown color. And then with almonds, it's a good idea if you don't know really how your almonds are sourced, if they're truly organic. It's a good idea to go ahead and rinse those ones too. But with cashews, I wouldn't bother rinsing those. So just kind of look into it. I don't bother rinsing the hemp seeds or the coconut. There's no need for that. I just pour all of it into the blender when I go to make the milk. Now, what else do I have going on here? Right here, now that my chickens are, it's that time of year and the chickens are really starting to produce, and I have a friend whose chickens are super duper producing, and she gets 2 dozen eggs a day, and she's giving me eggs on top of the eggs I already have, I need to get busy and start preserving my eggs in various ways. And one of the ways I like to do it is to freeze them. I scramble them up and freeze them, and I'll be doing some of that today. And you can see how I do that right up here. To me, that is so far the best method when it comes to freezing eggs. It's my favorite way to do it, and I'm going to keep doing it that way. But pickling your eggs is another great way. Now, what I have going on here is Ellen Fisher sent me these really wonderful peppers from her garden, and look at this huge jar. And I really have, I know it doesn't look like I've been using much of them, but I really have. These are pretty hot though, so I have to be sparing on how I use it. And though I like pretty hot stuff, I'm the only one in this household that likes things quite that warm. But I decided to throw them in with the eggs because I'm also the only one that's going to eat the pickled eggs, and I love this. I can hardly wait to try this. So 3 days time this will be ready. And what I used in this, and I do have a video on how I do my fermented eggs, I used the goji berry fermentation starter. Now if you're new to fermenting, there's different, and again I still have a video I got to do on the differences of different ways of fermenting. This one's relying more on a yeast ferment rather than a more bacterial based ferment like when you're using a salt brine for doing cabbages and kimchi and stuff. But I use this for making kimchi as well, and for fermenting cabbage and beets and all kinds of things. But I'll talk more about that in the future. So when I use my homemade fermentation starter, I use 1/4 cup of the liquid off the starter to 1 quart of whatever it is I'm fermenting, and then in 2 to 3 days time, maybe 4 tops if your home is really cold, then it'll be good and bubbly and ready. And so I'm thinking probably 2 days these might be ready, but I'm going to try to let them sit for 3 days so they can just get the pepper really infused in there and get a real nice flavor and that yummy, wonderful fizziness that's in there. And then I also added about a teaspoon of salt to this too. So they'll be ready to eat in 3 days. Very excited about that. And then also here is my blueberry fermentation starter. I haven't been doing so much fermenting in the past several months, and so I had to pull my fermentation starters out and get them fed because they were starting to get a little sad. But you can liven them back up as long as there's any fizziness left in it at all. Sometimes even if there isn't any fizziness left, if it's turned completely to vinegar, you might not be able to bring it back. But if it still has a wine flavor to it, then just throw some sugar in there, let it sit on your counter for a few hours and check it. And if it gets real bubbly, stick it back in your refrigerator and it should be fine. And then I also have a pineapple one, but that one I just recently fed, so it's good. I didn't have to pull it out. Now I'm bringing you over here so you can see a little bit better. This and that video I did, I was talking about vinegar. And as you know in that one, if you've seen it, and I'll go ahead and put it right up here, I was getting some more apple vinegar going, and I was going to try comparing the two, and here's where we're at so far. I still have, I think, 2 more weeks, or maybe, I think I still have 3 more weeks to go on this. I think it's only been a week. I don't recall. I'll have to look at my calendar. And I'll show you the difference. This is the one I've been stirring every day. It's very fizzy and just, it looks very healthy and good. And this was my experiment because I know some people keep asking me about the stirring, so I thought I'd give it a try. And I did taste it. I'm going to go ahead and stir it. I like using the chopstick because a spoon is just too big and then you're going to have issues. So I just been stirring it up, and the nice thing about this method is I don't have to worry about mold forming on top. Now look how fizzy it is. So that tells me it's still fermenting, and it's still going to have a lot of time. And as I said in that other video, the reason I never stirred my vinegar is I always thought it would affect the formation of the mother. So this is partly just an experiment to see the differences. And then here I'm leaving this one alone, and you can see it. So far it's starting to get a little bit of mold on top, but that's the way I normally do it. In the summertime when I have grapes, growing, and I have good big size grape leaves, a lot of times I'll stick those on top, and that helps quite a bit. But if I don't, then I just don't worry about it. I just lift that off the surface before I strain it. So in a few more weeks, I'll be doing a side-by-side comparison of taste and see if one is stronger than the other. I know for me, when it comes to summertime, I have so many vinegars going that the stir method is probably not going to work for me, because the only way I'd remember to stir it every day is to have them all out on my counter, and I can have 8 to 10 vinegars going at a time. So that's just not going to work for me. But since I've only got the 2 going, I'm just leaving the one that I want to stir out, and I do see it every day, and I do remember. And I even wrote on it, stir, so I wouldn't forget. And there's that. Now, one more thing is I'll be doing a video on how to make hot and sour soup out of food storage and leftover chicken and homemade bone broth. And so what I have here is some shiitake mushrooms and some lily flowers. And I'll be talking about that more in that video. So I just wanted to show you what's upcoming. I'm really excited because I love hot and sour soup, and I've only recently got back into making it again after many years. Okay, I know I said that was the last thing, but I want to show this real quick. One more thing this is another upcoming video. A lot of you really liked when I talked about my silver teapot. The one, I still haven't found any more information out about it yet, but I'll post that video right up here. And I wanted to show you this vintage, this old coffee grinder. I'm going to be talking about this in an upcoming video as well, because I did some research on that, and I think it's pretty cool. So anyway, that's it for today. Mostly about the extract update. So look into that and find out what works for you, and just start messing around with some flavors. I know I got a lot of other great ideas for flavors under that video that I will be trying down the road, like spearmint and peppermint and so on. So hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.